And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba the Bloom, episode 212, coming at you on a Sunday night because it's quote-unquote baseball season, everybody. For you that only follow football and then come over to the baseball world, it has happened. It's a tradition we've enjoyed doing on this show is right after the Super Bowl, we go live and we talk baseball in general. And we do a little Underdog Dinger drafting and have fun with that. Before we get to that, you can find me on Twitter at BDintric, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod, on Patreon at patreon.com/Bubba Bloom, and my co-host, as always, on Twitter at Ryan BHQ. Ryan Bloomfield, out of beer. How you doing?
Ran out of beer around halftime, which is fine, which is probably all for the best. We got work tomorrow. We got real life responsibilities to take care of. So I'll take it. Tonight we've got the giant jug of water to recuperate. We've got the NA Athletic IPA to just feel like I'm still going. I'm doing well, though. It was fun to watch the Chiefs get destroyed tonight as a bitter Bills fan. And, I don't know. The baseball season thing, whatever. This is our tradition. I very much enjoy live drafting best ball with you right when the Super Bowl ends. So let's keep this going.
Next for us, baseball season's year-round, as people know. And unlike you, I just cracked open another case of high noons. So we're good over here in this neck of the
Send some up north. Come on.
Yeah, one of these days, when we win the Millie, we can hang out together and do all this. But in order to have some fun with some dinger drafting, we'll talk just open underdog discussions throughout the show, talk some of the drafts as we get going, is a friend of ours. You can find him over on the Twitter at D4RKSH33P_. Some know him as Dark Sheep. Stacking Dingers podcast, which we love to talk about. He is the man, the myth, the legend behind running that. You have the Sheep Seats on Friday night doing some drafts as well. Our buddy Spencer Thurman was in that this past Friday night. So as always, welcome to the show, our friend, Mr. Dark Sheep.
Oh, sorry. I was busy drinking a beer that I have lots of.
This is going to be... Damn.
It's all that dog bowl money coming in, making sure he doesn't run out of beer around here.
Immediate shade thrown out my way.
I'm sure Bubba's
to a good start.
I'm sure Bubba's still on light mode from last time. So
I actually am.
We'll just throw the shade all night.
No, we're on dark. We're on dark.
All right, excellent. What's up? Thanks you guys for having me. I'm glad to be a part of your tradition here because baseball season is here.
Yes, I appreciate you joining us. We did our kind of best ball show or our underdog show on Tuesday, and you were in the chat helping us out with a ton of that stuff. We always tell people to go to Stacking Dingers. So before we get with the shenanigans of the show, we're going to let our Discord know to get ready to get in the draft rooms. Let everybody know what you have going on and where they can find you, because I kind of give a Cliff Notes version.
Two YouTube channels. The Stacking Dingers channel is just Stacking Dingers. You can also find that on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The audio versions, that's basically a weekly, soon to be bi-weekly, and once we get in the next couple months, underdog best ball focused podcast, video podcast. Billy and Chris, a couple of sweet data analysts that I've roped into helping me make it seem like I'm a lot smarter than I am. They do a bunch of analysis on the data we get from Underdog and some scoring specific stuff to Underdog. And then every Friday night over the other YouTube channel is the Sheep Seats, and that is just Friday night we're drafting. Like you said, Spencer was on. He was awesome. Bubba, you've been over there and hung out too. But yeah, we're baseball Underdog focused. We throw a little DraftKings once they open up, a little bit of drafters. One of my favorite shows, I started this last year. I'm going to do it again, where I tried to draft, I called it the triathlon. I drafted an Underdog, a DraftKings, and a drafters team all at the same time.
At the same time? Oh, good Lord.
So we're going to stay tuned for that. We're going to try that again this year.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, before we get into more discussion, gentlemen, please get ready to enter your drafts. Are you guys ready? So we can kind of sync
I screwed this up so bad.
I know that's why the listeners are laughing.
I've got Dinger enter ready to go. 30-second, not 8 hour. 30
Are you ready, Sheep? You good?
I'm ready. Okay,
we're gonna go 3, 2, 1. So everybody, on the count of 3 or backwards. 3, 2, 1, enter.
You gonna share your screen, Bubba?
I will once I get in there. Yes.
Three more left. I think we're all in the same draft.
Let's hope so.
I did not get. All right, we're waiting for. I gotta pop out for 1 second. 1 second, guys. I'll be right back.
2 more to go. You're good. You're good. Yeah, they have the new autopilot feature, which is amazing for those that don't know,
Autopilot.
because it's one of the complaints I've had forever is people will mass enter the live drafts and they just set their rankings and go, but you still have to wait for their clock to go every time. Now, if you put on autopilot, it automatically jumps you like in an NPC draft or something. So it's such a nice.
Like,
it
it
helps
have to wait. Okay.
because you'll be in some drafts and there'll be like 3 people that aren't there just on autopilot, and the draft just takes so much longer. It's ridiculous. So it's nice to have all of that. But Ryan, with what we saw,
Okay, so
I guess
we got you got the 3rd pick. We all actually entered the
right.
same draft together, which is
that's a start. That's
which
a start.
is a start. Sheep, you got the 11th pick. I've got the 10th, and our guy, your guy, all of our guys, Spencer Thurman's got the 12th pick at the wheel. So we are bunched at the back end.
Hey, make fun of me because I always jot on my phone. Where the heck's the board so I can post? Oh, I see it.
Oh, here we go.
I got it.
Here we go.
I got it. Shut your pie hole, buddy.
Hit that flight button that looks like an airplane. Hit that, and maybe it might be autopilot.
The things I do around here.
I'll shout out Dan J. Preciato, who's a Sheep Seats follower, who
in the draft.
He's got pick 2 in the unhinged nature of tonight. A couple of weeks back, he showed up in the chat and said, "Hey, sorry I missed the draft. I got stabbed." So,
Whoa.
so he's shout out to him. He's created one of the best Sheep Seats moments. His girlfriend
shouldn't laugh at that one, but I guess he's in the draft, so technically he survived.
And he's drafting second.
He made it to the second draft that night, so he was okay. Apparently, his girlfriend turned around while they were cooking and stabbed him. So,
so it's a girlfriend. I thought he was like walking back from getting smoked at the corner store or something and got shanked. So, if there's any silver lining in this, I guess it's his girlfriend. Are they still together? Is the real question.
I don't know. I haven't investigated, but I just had to shout it out because it's literally one of the craziest moments I've had live streaming.
Oh, that's pretty wild. Yeah. How did you react? Like, did you sympathies, or are you okay?
I laughed at first. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
because my immediate thought was he wouldn't be chatting if it was a problem.
As Dom Morello in the chat says, who's coming up with his pick soon, somebody's getting shanked tonight. So he's in the draft. Dom is he's on deck. He's picking 9th, Ryan's 10th, Dark Sheep's 11th, Spencer's 12th. I'm all the way at the front to pick 3, where I took Juan Soto because your buddy that got shanked took Aaron Judge from me. So anything surprising when you're seeing these early rounds, Sheep, that maybe stands out to you? Because I know we talked, outfield early. There are some obvious infielders to take. ADP has been shifting compared to our early drafts we were doing. That's definitely something I've noticed. I mentioned on our show. What have you noticed as you've shifted over, I guess, from the early draft season to Dinger season?
There's just been a little bit of shuffling. Corbin Carroll's moved up. Yordan goes anywhere in the first round. Kyle Tucker can go early. So I mean, it's the same names, but they seem to kind of be jostling around. So yeah, I'm at pick 11 here.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about outfield early, but when I get pick 11 and 12,
baby,
yeah, I'm going to take Jose Ramirez here. When you get to 11 and 12, you kind of have to decide if you want to trust Julio bounce back, or Schwarber going on still, or just taking a couple of high volume infielders.
One thing I'm going to ask you, because Ryan just took his pick for Fernando Tatis Jr., that if you're using Ryan's projections on the Patreon, has him as like the 5th projected fantasy value on there. That's why I knew exactly what Ryan was doing when he made that pick. But Sheep, and then Ryan, you can jump in at any moment if you want, but I want to ask Sheep, who's on the clock again, to see who he pairs with J-Ram. But how do you go about the stacking situation? I know you guys had an awesome show on that recently. You need to kind of make that decision earlier in your drafts, I would say, before you kind of get going. You just took Oh man, you took Vladito. I love it. Back to back.
Double infield.
Yeah,
It's
we're gonna-
icy. So
we're gonna-
you can hit on the double infield if you
Switch
want,
it
but
up.
also the stacking question. Yeah.
Yeah, so double infield here puts you way behind at outfielder, but gives you a ton of projected points with these two guys. So the idea here is to probably ignore pitcher for a while and build up your outfield from here. Cleveland, Toronto don't have great outfield stacking partners. I'm not super excited with Stephen Kwan where he's going. Even Lane Thomas feels a little bit expensive. Springer is bit and Varsho is bit, but we might have to go to a third team to put some outfield together. There's a couple of late teams and middle teams that I kind of have used as a safety valve for outfield. And maybe we'll get to those. We'll see what falls.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Ryan, you went outfield with Tatis and Schwarbaum's. On paper, that's an outstanding start when it comes to OBP and overall rankings. But what are you thinking here?
I love the Schwarber pick. The Tatis is like if there's any first round hitter that I don't like, it's Tatis. We just had some Discord discussion on is Fernando Tatis injury prone or not? I don't know. Like I said, the projections, which point of clarification, my friend Bubba, these are not my projections. These are
your sheet.
These are Steamer and I don't know, BATX average projections.
You don't know?
We're going there
together.
We're going Steamer and BATX for hitters.
Gotcha.
And they had Tatis, I think. Yeah, I think that they had him top 5.
You have him 5th. I actually uploaded him for this draft.
That's what I wanted to throw back to you is you are using the aggregator projections for the first time tonight. So
I want to see how things differentiate, I guess.
Man's turning over a new leaf.
Yeah, you know me, old man, can learn new tricks. It's a pretty crazy situation here. But so I'm going to kind of I'm basically going to start getting
who's sticking out because we're using the same rankings. You know who's sticking out. You didn't take him, did you?
No, I didn't want to take Ronald Acuna Jr. He is 11th overall in the projections deal, and I'm not drafting him still at this point in time.
Okay, so Sheep, that's one thing that we brought up on our show last Tuesday, and the point that I made was like at least a differentiator because we're such in the draft and hold 5x5 rotisserie mode right now. At least speaking for Bubba and I, where so much of this Dinger contest. Yes, you have to get through the first round, but so much of it is once you get through that, these 2-week stints in the second half. Like, does Ronald Acuna, are you taking Acuna as like a second round pick because of that?
I am not. It's probably boring of me. I wish it was like third round. If he falls late third round, where I have kind of a core infielder ahead of him. I guess I'm less concerned with the time that he misses. I think you can make up that ground month and a half, 2 months. I guess what is the actual timeline these days?
No one really knows, but that's like roughly average.
I think they're hoping for a month. I think that's what they're hoping for.
Yeah. So I don't think that's too terrible to make up in the early time. The problem is we saw it happen 2 years ago with Bryce Harper, who was in a similar situation. We were, where's the right value on Harper? When he came back, he had no power either. So coming back, I don't know. It's not so much the time missed. It's that I don't know what Acuna is going to be when he comes back. That has me, not good to get him. I guess he went there at pick 24. I'm not in on him this year.
Yeah, no, and I'm kind of sitting there as well. But I wanted to mention to Ryan, did you see who the second-ranked pitcher is on the system here? Just gonna throw that out there to you.
He's at the top of my queue as well.
I just want to throw that out there real quick for those that keep it track.
I think it's is that Aaron Nola?
No, it's a guy that wishes he was Aaron. It's Aaron Nola wishes he was him. From our Thursday show of our top 20 rankings, Dylan Cease ranks very high, folks. Very, very high. Again, it's tough to take pitching this early, and maybe you want to elaborate more on that, Sheep. You talked about it when you took your hitters to kind of give up, move on from pitching. I know it's been widely discussed. Wait on pitching. We see these guys that are top tier guys, but we also know injuries can happen and skews things, and you're passing up on the points, like you mentioned with Vladito and company, and you're on the clock now. But when you're done making your pick, if you want to hit on more, maybe make more sense to people on the waiting on pitching strategy potentially.
All right, so we're gonna get totally crazy here and take Devers and go 3 infield start.
Love it.
This is quite the fall. So this is maybe a 5 infield build by the time we're done here. I have a couple of outfielders I like to come back to me and start at outfield here. So not looking to stack, just taking this super high projected guy in Devers. But what was your question again? Sorry.
About the pitching, because we talk about these guys like rank out so high. Even like Dylan Cease is the 21st player according to the aggregator. Essentially, not many are ever going to take him in the top 21 because we focus more on waiting on pitching and Underdog. I know like Ryan and I kind of talked about it last episode or on Tuesday's show, but you've obviously done more research on it. What stands out to you on why we wait on pitching more so than usual?
So it's actually pretty simple. It's not even like there's not a lot of research. You just have to look at the actual scoring point totals. And if you look at how pitchers score, and then you look at over the course of a season, how much a pitcher scores versus the next guy below him. So your over replacement value is not that high. So it's almost impossible over the course of like the longer period of the season for a pitcher to really outscore the next pitcher below them. So it's really just a matter of math there. It's like it's not that I think Paul Skeens isn't the best pitcher. It's just like in this scoring format, how much more is he going to score for me over this big first scoring period than Dylan Cease?
And I'm with you. It's kind of in a roundabout way where my head's been. It's like you drop down in pitching and the drops in points aren't as dramatic as when you start waiting on hitters as the hitting draft goes on. And you can also find hitters later in the draft that are going to basically perform the same as the elite pitchers at the same time. So it's kind of a back and forth, I guess, when you're trying to build it. And I'm on the clock yet again, and I'm not really looking to stack either. Dylan Cease is staring me in the face, though. But we're not going to do that. We're stay strong.
Come on.
We're staying strong here. I'm just amazed by like I'm using this aggregator for the first time, and it is.
Oh Jesus! Look at it. I got Bubba in spreadsheets for the first time. It's not.
But so I went with Suzuki to back up Ian Happ. Gives me 4 outfielders. Little mini stack going. I want to ask you this again, Sheep. Stacking. You kind of mentioned on yours you're not really going to look to stack because you already have 4 players, 4 different teams. You can have mini stacks. Still very possible. You take Riley Green, you can get Detroit late. Those are kind of things as you're going with this.
Yeah.
You don't basically what I'm saying, you don't have to stack to have a good team, correct?
Yeah. So we've not we, but Chris at B3 Isball over on Twitter, one of my co-hosts on Stacking Dingers, the last 2 years has compiled. So we get the download of all of the teams drafted from Underdog. So he's able to compile the scoring for all of those teams and basically looked at stacked hitters. So in this case, we're looking at even, let's say you have 3 New York Yankees and 2 Boston guys. That's the example I'll use. So that counts as 5 stacked hitters. It doesn't have to be all from the same team. We're just talking about the correlation between them. Between one hitter and another. So the numbers kind of yield what you expect to yield. So if you come from a DFS background, you know on a daily basis that stacking gives you a better ceiling outcome, right? The chance of you scoring more points just happens because the guy hits a home run, he knocks some guys in, they all scored together, right? So then we format that into how the scoring works in Underdog. We have the big long advancement period of the first round. And basically what the numbers show is that stacking helps you a little bit, right? So you go to that long time period where you're looking at, the correlation between the players. It's not huge. It's slightly helpful. But then you get into those 1 week, periods. 2 at a time playoff rounds. And that's where stacking really puts you ahead of other people. So, it's not as it's not as effective as DFS where you're looking at 1 day, but it is helpful. And I'm on the clock here, so this is interesting. We'll take a Randy Arozarena fall to try and build, get a bounce back on him this year in terms of getting our outfield a little bit, hopefully, on track.
Hey,
Yes.
Bloom, I want to ask you. You went Ketel Marte, O'Neal Cruz. You went back-to-back infielders there, which is totally fine. But are you buying into the O'Neal Cruz situation now? Are you with me on this?
I think I am. I took him in the 3rd round of our draft and hold that we're currently in, so I guess I am a fan. Maybe it's 4th. I don't know. Yeah, I O'Neal Cruz was one of the home run barrel underperformers that popped in the boom boards that we put on the Patreon last week. And yeah, like the park isn't great for homer to barrel, but I just think O'Neal Cruz takes that step up. It's interesting on our rankings. The 2 top infielders left are double Willies.
Yes,
there's King
party.
Willie and Giant Willie. So
it's a Slick Willie party around here.
What we're gonna do? No, Slick Willie is much later.
Much later.
There we go. But no, I started 3 outfield, 2 infield, which is in line with what we talked about on our show on Tuesday in terms of like what the most common builds are among successful teams that actually work. I'm on the clock again. I got like 50. God, this clock is so damn fast. So am I thinking 3-3 or 4-2? I'm going to go 4 outfielders, 2 infielders with my first 6. And I know you guys are in the same draft with me, Bubba. It's not that big of a deal because you're on the other end. But like, I think my plan now is going to be an absolute just demolition of pitchers in these next 5-6 rounds. So
yeah, and
you've been warned.
You don't have to warn me. That's everyone. So
that's
everyone waits and they all go pitch.
Okay.
If you go year over year, like last year to this year, by this time there would have been 10, 12 pitchers taken, right? So everybody has seen the results of early pitchers, basically the last 3 years between injuries and just no one separating. And the field has depressed the price of pitching. So
to what point though? Because that's what I was wondering is like all this data is out there. We talked about on Tuesday, like it doesn't make sense. Maybe 1 pitcher in the first 5-6 rounds, whatever. But like at what point is the market overcorrecting for that? Have you seen that yet in this season's drafts where just pitching is so cheap that does it make sense to, I mean, I guess the ultimate, quote is zig when they zag, but like has pitching gotten depressed so much where it actually makes sense to just take advantage of that?
I think so. So this year I've taken a lot of like C's, Crochet, Reagan's, like where last year I would have waited on those names, and I grabbed a guy a couple of rounds later from where they were going. I'm happy to jump in and get that anchor guy this year, and maybe even go back to bat pitchers or 2 pitchers in 5, 6, 7. And then maybe wait longer, or just keep hitting pitcher here, because you say zig when everybody's zagging, and the thing is though that like with everyone grabbing pitchers here, I don't think the overall price of pitcher has gone down. It's just the first few. So it just seems like it's gone and condensed. I don't have any math behind this, but it feels like it's condensed rather than completely fallen back.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a pitching heavy start. I went Cease and I've got Peralta. I've done my thing. Right. Ryan has missed the Cease slander there, but Ryan's actually on deck here, so I can't wait to see what his first pitcher is.
No, I'm just
I see one of his favorite pitchers as the top available guy here, according to the aggregator. So I'm curious.
Well, this is just interesting. Like it's what we just kind of talked about. I probably should have taken a pitcher in my last pick because 10 pitchers have gone since I last got to pick. And I could have had a Reagan's, Gilbert, Blake Snell, but now I'm not stuck, but Luis Castillo, Yusei Kikuchi, Logan Webb, like those types. I feel like that is I probably waited 1 round too long to start going pitching.
Or Sheep, is that our season long brain fooling us on what is actually decent for this format.
Yeah, those guys that you mentioned that compared to, like, they're not that different in this format.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're that great. Yeah, but I'm glad you left me my guy here that I wanted, which
What do we
is
got? What are we doing?
Ramber Valdez.
Oh no,
Very,
it's not
yes.
even on my. Oh, there he
Because
is.
the aggregator does not like him as much as you do.
So-
Damn aggregator.
So if you're looking at the scoring format,
Amber's a beast.
you know, you took Logan Webb, who gets the innings, which we love volume. But I think, you know, Framber gets as many innings, he gets as many quality starts. As, like, they're too comparable, but Framber gets more strikeouts. So I think in this format, those three things combined make him a little bit better of a pick.
Absolutely, and I think George Kirby as well, who doesn't get the strikeouts but does get the innings like Webb. I mean, the strikeouts between those two. Why is Framber so far down on the damn aggregator?
He's actually farther down.
I gotta cook the books
in the regular rankings. He's actually farther down than I expected in the regular rankings, but he drops even farther in the aggregator column, which is quite an interesting take, and that's why I like doing this for the first time, because I did not notice that. I probably would have taken him over Freddie Peralta, but I'm trying to follow suit right now.
Then I followed it up with high upside Jacob deGrom here.
High upside, yes, very, 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 very high upside. Indeed, I'm afraid to take deGrom. I'll be honest, very afraid. But I have a few shares in my my multiple leagues because I draft too many of them, so I better have a few shares. But I'll take him over Spencer Strider all day. I'll say that much.
in best ball or overall.
Both. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I put a poll out on the old Twitter there. Who throws more innings this year, deGrom or Strider? And surprisingly, majority picked Strider, which I said surprisingly because the difference in ADP would not suggest that, in my opinion. All right, we're getting back towards me here, and decisions will need to be made now. Do I go with a third pitcher? Do I go infield? Because I'm trying to keep stacking in mind, but I should probably just throw that out the window about this point in time. Because the guy that's atop the rankings right now, Ryan, would go with a stack of mine. I already have 4 outfielders, and I'm not really in the mood to take JJ Bleday this early in the draft. But
does he pop? Is he on the rankings?
He's 55th on the aggregator. He stands out.
Sure, he does. He does.
This is me trying to trust the system right now, or to see how much the system I want to trust.
I think Oakland is a sneaky stack. Well, I don't know how sneaky it is. Some of the hardcore underdog drafters are in, but I think Oakland is a nice team to stack. In this
you get a lot of them late too. A lot of them
exactly.
Late. So that's what makes them. I think last year we were all talking like the Pirates or the Tigers or like I love the Brewers was like a middle of the pack. Like you could get those guys so cheap and get a Brewer stack. That was pretty glorious as well. But I don't know who's with that. I guess if you want to give away any secrets right now, Sheep, who stands out to you as that kind of group of stacking teams we could maybe take advantage of, like value wise in the drafts?
So for me, I don't think it's really set up lately. I guess it could here, but the Giants, your Giants are one of my cheap stacks. Adames, if you want to go with him, I think there's some risk with the stadium change and just contract change. Okay, Chapman just went there, but I think Chapman is, you know, one of the most underpriced guys in this contest right now. If he's going to steal bags again, he just accumulates as well as has spike weeks. So if you can follow him up with Ramos or I'm taking a ton of Jung-Hoo Lee. It feels gross. He's not a spike week guy, but if I'm getting him as my 5th and 6th outfielder on a lot of teams, I just feel really comfortable with that.
Well, it's a great floor for your other spike week guys, and they don't spike.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, Ryan, we're getting a few picks away from you here. Are you going a third pitcher? Or are you changing things up?
Trust
here?
me, I'm going
process?
3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th.
You're hammering.
Like I said, this has been my formula so far. Again, don't know if it'll work, but it's been like 2 infielders, 4 outfielders, first 6 rounds, and then like literally 5-ish pitchers in a row. So looking at Rodon or Sonny Gray, I'm sure I have more Sonny Gray than I do Carlos Rodon, who I famously have now left off my top 100 starting pitcher rankings.
That was impressive. That was a whole lot of shade thrown Carlos Rodon.
A lot of shade thrown in the Discord about that one, but I will probably take Sonny Gray here, assuming
who would Sheep
Buddy
take?
doesn't do it.
Unless maybe he wants to take him next. He's after him.
Sheep's,
here.
Sheep's probably got some dude who I don't even have on my list here I love, and just like Framber style, who I'm just like, what the hell? But no, I'm gonna go Sonny Gray.
Yeah, and the thing with that, you don't have to take Rodon now. So
Yeah.
so
ADP is 136, and
Right.
we're at pick 100. So that's another thing I'm trying to do with these rankings, Bubba, is I've got the sheet loaded from the Patreon. It's sorted by rank, but I've got an eagle eye on that ADP column. I don't want to jump it by like 30 picks if I don't have to.
Yeah, I'm just baby stepping. I'm using the rankings for now. Let's not screw this up too much. Because one thing I remember very, very clearly talking to Sheep and the boys last year is you can kind of throw ADP out the window at a certain point in these drafts to build your best roster at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Once I get to 14 or 15th round, like I think you can just throw ADP all the way out. It's really hard. I'll say, if you're coming into Underdog fresh, and you don't look at ADP, don't look at it. Like that's probably the biggest weakness I'll say of the hardcore Underdog grinders, because we're out here doing 150 drafts in this contest. So a lot of our mental capacity is going towards building a portfolio and building, different stacks of different teams. And to do that, we're getting used to where players are being drafted. So you start a draft, you're thinking about the stacks that you want as you start drafting. So you're kind of planning as you go throughout the draft, which ends up you're relying on ADP a lot. So if you're coming in here fresh, and you want to do 20 drafts, I'd say just ignore ADP at all and figure out your ranks and figure out the guys you think are undervalued to the field and just hammer them.
Yeah, well, that's a very valuable point. Kind of what I'm thinking about doing here right about now is
Bubba, you've only got one infielder, man. What are you
no,
doing?
that's changing right now, my friend, because the stacks I'm potentially building all have a ton of infielders going later in the draft. It's called strategy, Ryan Bloomfield.
See, you're next. See, I haven't even gotten to this, especially in a fast draft.
See, there goes Dansby Swanson to join Ian Happ and Seiya Suzuki. Now we're talking, Ryan. It's called a stack.
Look at this guy. What other Cubs? I can't wait for your Nico Horner pick next round.
Oh, no, that will not be happening, because if I won't take a DeGrom or a Strider that often, Nico Horner, who knows when he's even coming back.
Dude, what other infielders do the Cubs have?
It doesn't all have to be one team. There's multiple teams on my roster. The A's have a lot of them, as Sheep knows, when it comes to value later on.
I mean, I'm taking Bush and Shaw on Cub stacks.
There we go. No, in this draft, we gotta screw up Bubba.
No,
because he's a gentleman and a scholar.
I'm not taking them. Those guys aren't. I'm not taking on their own. Those are stack partners.
Yeah, those are not one-offs. Those are we have to stack it up. Okay, go with what you're gonna go. Then I have a question for you.
I was just gonna say you've mentioned a couple times about the time, Ryan, and I think if you're a roto player and you're like, what is this dumb format? I don't think this is fun. There's no positions, it's not the right scoring. I don't get it. If anything else, it'll teach you to be fast on the clock. Getting in here and drafting is practice for every other sport, every other contest that you're in. So when we get to NFBC drafts and I'm doing a live draft, I just feel less stressed because I've been on the clock so much that it doesn't stress me out at all.
So look at Ryan, you made fun of me. Matt wanted Swanson to come back to him to pair with Tucker. Sup. That's all I gotta say, Mr.
Swanson was a full sign off for me.
No, okay, good. Now I'm kind of worried. So Sheep, the other kind of question I had here for you is, you were talking about how a Shaw and a Bush is only a part of a stack, when you are in those later picks, maybe you are looking at one-offs because you're jumping ADP. What are you looking for at that point in time where a Bush and a Shaw might not meet that one-off criteria per se?
I'm looking for home run hitters. Well, there's two things. I'm looking for home run hitters, and I'm also looking. The secondary option is guys that aren't drafted every draft. So a Michael Bush is getting drafted every draft. So you look at Michael Bush versus, I don't know, who do you want to say? Thairo Estrada. They're just pulling that name out of the thin air. Like, Thairo Estrada is not going in every draft, but like, what's the chance that those guys score the same, or, you know, Thairo scores more? So those are kind of the two things. Is I want home run hitters for spike weeks, and I want guys that are going to be uncommon if I get them to the playoffs.
All right. So is there a place besides just looking at ADP and realizing only X amount of players get drafted, so on and so forth, to see how, I guess, common players are that get drafted?
No.
Okay.
That's another. I've been in 50 drafts this year, and I know. And you'll see even like, let's see here. I'm on the clock quick, but you'll get used to that. Let's take a real boring pick. My guy last year going in the 20th round, Seth Lugo.
Yeah, volume legend.
Fill in some volume. Who
Ryan wasn't kidding. 5 straight pitchers. My God.
You know,
in the plan.
22 quality starts. I don't think Lugo's gonna do that again, but I think I'll take some volume here after taking DeGrom.
And sorry, go Ryan. What do you got?
Just say I got totally sniped with that Bailey Ober right before Carlos Rodon that last round. If you could not hear an expletive through my mic, that's what that was.
Now, I was gonna say, like, just for conversation's sake, this is no shade at my co-host here. Like, you got Seth Lugo like 4 or 5 rounds later. I know in a vacuum, Logan Webb's done it more often, so on and so forth. But we're talking like just underdog scoring per se. What's the gap between those two that separates them for 5 rounds? I guess is the point about. It's more of a general point about how pitching can be different in this format.
All right, and then I'm going to follow it up with maybe another potential volume guy this season in Justin Steele. I think the injury of last year was pretty freak accident that I think he can just be a workhorse type of guy this year for the Cubs.
Let's hope so. Is that Vinny P? Vinny P on Mr.
Vinny
Ryan's
P.
team?
He's going
Love
Vinny
it.
P. I don't know.
So
I had to end my. So that's typically the decision I make every time I do an underdog draft. Is I am going to pound pitching hard in these middle rounds. How you know? I'm not going to say how hard do I pound it.
Yeah, keep pounding it hard, Ryan. Let me know how hard you pound it. Let's go.
How often do I go pitchers in a row in the middle rounds? And I feel like I stop at around 5 or 6. I'm just gonna stop.
I guess we found out how hard. How many pitchers do you usually end with, Ryan?
7.
7. Okay, just checking. So he comes back for more. Sheep, he
needs a break.
Yeah, he needs another beer apparently.
4 or 5.
So
I ran out, man. Okay.
Yeah. Sheep, I know we were talking on our show, and you guys have talked about it too. Ryan mentioned like the difference, 7, 6, 7s, all that. What do you prefer as your draft? I know it kind of changes towards maybe as things are flowing, but what are you kind of looking at?
I usually land on 7, 7, 6. I'm part of the problem, so to speak. So one of the other great Billy Jones did. He took the data from the last 3 years and kind of looked at, how construction changed throughout the 3 years. And last year it was 50% plus of teams were 7, 7, 6. So the field is condensing on that build. So really, when it comes down to it, I'm almost never going 8 players at any position. It takes a pretty extreme build for me to go to 8. So the average, common one is 7, 7, 6. And it depends on, like this one where I took the 3 infielders early. It might be a 7-6-7. So that's kind of where the trade-off goes, is how much capital you spend on a position early. If it's out of the range of the norms, then I'm going to go out of the norm of my 7-7-6.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm usually in that 7 pitchers and probably 7 infielders, 6 outfielders. Sometimes flip the hitting positions, but usually 7 pitchers every time.
Yeah, so what it comes down to is winning the flex. That's something we talk about. You know, if you're looking at Underdog football stuff, they talk about that. And, you know, the reason that outfield goes earlier and gets jumped up is it's not because they score better. You know, after you get out of the first round, basically, the infielders start out projecting the outfielders. So it's not that those outfielders score more, it's that they're rarer. So if you're building up 7 infielders, the idea is that each week you're filling up your flex with a higher projected guy. Yeah. So as you go throughout the season, each week you're just like edging out your opponents because you have, you know, more infielders who project for more amount of points.
Sorry, Ryan just took Mason Wynn, so I had to give a little fist pump there.
If there was any format that I hate Mason Wynn even more, it's Underdog.
Oh, please elaborate. Please elaborate, because as Ryan was trying to do, as the Carolina Panthers once said, keep pounding. So elaborate on this one.
I just took Wynn just to get a rise out of Bubba. It worked, but then Sheep just from the top rope.
I'm excited.
I'm sorry. So he. Let me make this pick. Then let me rail on Mason Wynn.
I was tied between Wynn and Glaber and Xander, and I was like, I just want to see if Bubba notices if I pick Wynn.
Oh, I was watching.
He noticed.
I
noticed.
Okay.
I was absolutely sniped, by the way, on Yandy Diaz. Again, this Daniel dude in front of me is. I'm sure he's a nice fella, but not on my good list tonight. All right, yeah. Right. Why do you hate Wynn? Because I need to listen to this sheet.
Okay, so I mean, I'm with you for the most part on your roto analysis of Wynn too, Bloomfield. It's like I just think he's a bad hitter, and because of circumstances, he's getting bumped up. Obviously, he's young. He's going to lead off. He can steal bases for roto, so on and so forth. So I get the hype. I get why you want him. I get the upside case because he's young. But when it comes to Underdog, steals aren't just worth that much. Like, if you look at the scoring, steals are worth 4 points. So if you're drafting a guy that steals, like, you're getting floor, you're not getting ceiling.
No, that's a very fair
there's
point.
There's not much of a
very, very good point. I'm going to cut off Ryan's very good observations. Very good before he slanders my man even farther. So, yes, thank you. I do want to. I have to do one plug here real quick. If anybody's enjoying this show and more importantly, enjoying Underdog, make sure when you go to and you're new to Underdog, sign up with promo code and make your first deposit with promo code Bubba Bloom, all one word. You get a first-time deposit match up to $1,000. They also have a bunch of other cool things coming up. If you're doing the Super Bowl, a bunch of cool free picks there and whatnot. But if you are new to Underdog, if you're enjoying the content that we're bringing you, what other people are bringing you, make sure you go to Underdog when you sign up, make your first deposit. Get a deposit match up to $1,000. Promo code Bubba Bloom. All right. What was your slander, Ryan? You can have the floor now if you still know what you're going to say.
Oh, it's just without the steals, which isn't as valuable in Underdog. Like, what's the floor left with Mason Wynn? And there really is no floor with Mason Wynn at all. So Bubba doesn't like that, but it's pretty much just proven fact at this point.
Are you happy now?
So this is actually a bad situation for me because I'm kind of glad Sheep said his piece on Mason Wynn. B, I'm not happy. I took him now.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't be. You should have saved him for me. And to Sheep's point, I understand what he's saying by all this, but would you still be interested in Wynn in a St. Louis stack if you're crazy enough to try to stack St. Louis, which is not a very fun stack to begin with?
I mean, that's one of my relief stacks. The starting at Contreras, putting Walker and Lars Nootbaar, who's one of my highest owned guys. I'm still buying into that power potential. like you talk about single guys, I'm fine with him in a stack or alone, because he hits the ball, he hits the hell out of the ball. Even Nolan Arenado, who seems like he's going to be stuck there for part of the season, is basically free. You can, if you want to go Burleson or Donovan, I don't love them as much because they're kind of volume-based guys, I think, and I don't know what their volume is. But yeah, I think St. Louis is good. But if Wynn was going back there where those other guys are going, I'd be taking him. Okay. But I'm just not taking him now where he's going.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's get a little update here as we are round 15. We're getting towards the end here. I have 5 picks to go. The gentlemen have 6 picks to go. Ryan has taken a ton of pitching. He's up to 6 pitchers, 4 infielders, and 4 outfielders. I have 7 pitchers, but who cares who's counting? Sheep has 4, 5, and 5. Ryan, where are you looking to go here? Are you just taking the next available player? Or are you looking for more pitching? What's your game plan, amigo?
So I like to make my draft symmetrical. So what you'll see if you look at my board or whatever, there's going to be a lot of orange at the top, which is outfielders. There's going to be a lot of orange at the bottom because of that. There's going to be a lot of purple in the middle because that's pitching. And then there's going to be infielders surrounding that purple. So I am, and what that all means is basically that the players, the positions I'm going early at, I'm going to take their backups later because I'm just kind of hoping the early picks I make here pan out. And I think in the best ball, you just kind of have to do that. So I am backing up my infielders, which I took after my outfielders, my starting outfielders. I'm taking those backups before I take the backup outfielder. So I'm up here. I'm going to take my guy Xander. I was going to think about it last time, but I don't know. Just a floor volume guy. I don't know about the spike weeks and that sort of thing with Xander, but we'll go with him.
You're talking Xander for a while there. Sheep, how are we feeling here? 4-5-5. You're 5-5-5. You're even across the board right now. I like that. So you can kind of go all kinds of different directions. Are you looking? You said you're not stacking. Obviously, if people look at,
I am. It was more. I didn't.
He's got some Toronto going.
I did not love the outfield options with those early infielders that I took, but we did piece together some Detroit and Toronto.
And a little Seattle. You have a double Seattle going on here.
It's a little gross this year going with Bo and Springer, but
very affordable.
Well, I mean, I'd rather be paying less.
I like how you snuck in that after all the banter and hoopla around my Mason Wynn pick. You snuck in a little Parker Meadows right after that.
Yeah, I hear he's maybe next year's Jarren Duran.
Maybe
this year's Jarren Duran.
He's pretty good. So he could be. That'd be fun if he gets to that level. I'll say that much. That's for sure. Then what did you just go with here? Gleyber Torres. That's who Ryan's talking about. Xander and Gleyber. You picked Mason Wynn a few rounds ago, comparing him to these two guys who went a couple rounds later. So I guess to Sheep's point, there you go. Another Detroit player on your Detroit stack as well.
Right. And I don't know. I'd like to get your guys' take on Kerry Carpenter. I know, in the underdog community, he has the nickname Kerry Bonds.
Yep.
Maybe that goes outside. I live in my own bubble sometimes, but I'm just really scared of back issues, platoon issues. I don't know. I just don't love where he's going.
More so not just Carpenter himself, but Sheep, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Just platoon hitters in general. Like I just don't know on a weekly basis what that ceiling is. Because I mean, Kerry Carpenter's probably not playing against lefties. A lot of these guys that are available at this point in the draft, especially in outfield, might be platoon guys. It's hard for me to go there because there's just not that often where you have even a 6-game week against right-handed pitching. So a lot of these platoon guys are getting 5 games a week max, and for me that's tough in these later rounds. I want to shoot for a higher ceiling. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's just how I've handled those platoon bats.
Yeah, two things. I mean, Kerry Carpenter is the guy you want in that scenario, though, because he is the guy that can get 4 home runs in 4 games.
Yep.
So he can even give you the spike weeks that you want. It's more so the back and health stuff that I'm off on him. But like Jock Peterson is another example of a platoon guy who I love, although he's climbing up in ADP. I was grabbing him a lot in the 20th round, and when the first contest was open. I'm getting to him less now. But the other thing I'll say is last year I had almost no Jaron Durhan because I kept saying I think he's a platoon hitter. So that's the other side, is when you're wrong.
You got to take your chances sometimes, which is not always easy in these formats because, like, we're looking at a guy that's coming up here on the clock pretty soon. I was noticing when you were talking the FF child that we have going on here. His hitters are Riley, Tristan Casas, Jordan Westbrook, Jackson Holiday, Toglia Campbell. That's the infield. Christian Campbell of Boston. Outfield, Kyle Tucker, Jackson Churio, Michael Harris, Christian Yelich, and Roman Anthony. He went Christian Campbell, Roman Anthony back to back. The Braves, and it pairs up with Tristan Casas. So it's one of those, if those two guys get called up at some point and they don't need them right now, but later on in the year, that could be a sneaky little setup right there. It's way too rich for my blood and tolerance level, but very interesting.
I do know him. He's Matt in the chat.
Oh, cool. The guy that I sniped on a pick. Perfect.
Yeah. So talking to him, I know part of his strategy also here is spring training rolls around and those guys are looking good and looking like they're going to make the team. They're going to shoot up. 100%. So I think he's trying to get a position, so to speak, on those guys early and get ahead of stuff. So he's a real sharp dude. If you're in your drafts with him, I recommend seeing what he's doing to maybe. And he also thinks outside. Draft. He's not a hardcore baseball guy. He's a big underdog guy. Okay. So, but he loves baseball drafting. So he doesn't have a lot of the biases that we come to this format with. So he's always an interesting guy to follow personally.
No, it just stood out to me because, like I said, he's got Casas early. He's got other stable players in between there. So it's one of those, even if they don't start the year with the team, we all think they're going to be up rather soon. That if they do come up and start making an impact, even if it's second, third month of the year, still gives them almost a half of the first round of production for us. That could be one of those that, especially once other guys get hurt potentially, they slide in. Like I see the Anglers going for it for sure. It's just not very common, so it stood out in a big way when they went back to back. I was like, whoa, that's a new one. So unlike other shows we've done, Sheep, where we look at it and go, what is this person even thinking? This made sense, at least with what he was doing here, which was very good. Ryan with a little bit of Jesus Sanchez.
Yeah, I took Sheep's platoon speech to heart there, and I took Jesus Sanchez there. I do want to call out, so my guy Daniel Moe wasn't quite a snipe like the last two times that he's been able to do it, but I feel like Zach Neto in a best ball, especially at 17th round, someone who, yes, we have concerns about when he's going to start, how the shoulder's going to be immediately when he returns, but I feel like a second half Zach Neto, or at least a post June and moving forward, Zach Neto feels like a pretty good spot to take him with your fourth to last pick. Lodolo, look at that. I like that.
That again, that's a spike week guy potentially. I don't.
100%.
Yeah. Yep.
Although looking back last year, I always. Oh, sorry, I'm on the clock here.
Spencer. So yeah, go ahead. You got 4 seconds left. Yeah. But Spencer Thurman just went. He did a little St. Louis mini stack. Lars and Wilson Contreras. I don't know if he has any other Cardinals.
So I'm looking at right now.
Doesn't.
I do not see
like
one.
It.
No, I don't
just
see
a little mini stack on the wheel there. But
that's a nice little mini stack to put later on because there will be other Cardinals available late in his last two picks if he really wants to. And then Spencer's very, very sharp. Like we said, he was on Cheap's show this past Friday, and he was with me a couple weeks ago on Bitch with Bubba. Dude knows his best ball. That's what he lives for. So very sharp in that regard.
Yeah, I'm over in those best ball 5s and 10s now after listening to him come on to your show. That's been an interesting change of pace.
Such a different format.
Trying to
so wild.
Trying to convert what I know about this drafting and the little I know about roto drafting and combine it with that. It's been fun. And again, same thing as this. The $5 and $10 price point for me is just awesome to go and experience and learn and get better at stuff.
Yep, that's the goal. That's what we love about these cheap things. That's why we like, like I know we're talking best ball here, but NPC, who runs BB10s and BB5s, we're trying to get them to. That's why we like the $50 listener leagues and stuff, trying to get lower price points for people to get in the market and realize we can all have a good time playing the same thing we all like to do. And that's one reason why we've loved Underdog for so long. I know Sheepy primarily play this season long, but I think with your dog bowl experience, you might start dabbling in some daily routines here if you have time. I can't remember how much you told me last year you do play it, but I love that daily format. I need to try to get back into it for sure.
I played less last year than the previous few years, partially because the field has gotten sharper. So if you scroll back in my Underdog results back to 2021, 2022, when there was the daily baseball contest had like $300 to first prize and like max entry of like 3 entries. Like that was what brought me over to Underdog in the first place, because it was like a super weak format, and like just using projections got you ahead of the field. But we've gotten to the point where I can't just load up projections and draft, and daily drafting takes time, and you don't always have that during the day. So what I'll do a lot on Underdog more is draft the After Dark contests, which is like the evening games, because then also, my family goes to bed and I can sit down and watch baseball and sweat those contests. I'll do that a lot more than the main ones.
Yep, that makes sense. I'm gonna try to do more of the dailies. Like I told people before, I used to do a lot of those on draft because, 3-man, 6-mans, whatever, they go pretty quick when you're drafting those teams. If you still have the time to do them, so it's pretty nice. In the middle of the day, I know the Badge Bros do a ton of that kind of stuff, so that's always a fun deal as well.
Yes, if you want to get into that, I highly recommend going and following those guys. Those guys are, once they get out of their football brain and basketball brain, but they'll be doing the daily baseball stuff a few times a week and talking about it. You can learn from them.
I've talked to Nez already. I'm gonna have him on my show to talk about it here down the road. So we'll have some fun with that. Ryan, what are we looking at here? 2 picks to go. Are we going orange? Talking about your unique builds you talked about?
My symmetry. Yes. No, I got to go 2 hitters here. So one thing I want to bring up before
outfielders. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Outfielders. Sheep, what's your take on one thing I mentioned in terms of like the last 2-3 rounds of a best ball draft like this as being unique?
Yeah,
I feel like this is the time to just take players that are unique, like that normally don't get taken in these types of drafts. Is this the time to do that? Is that something you prioritize with these last 2-3 picks, whatever?
Like I was saying earlier, those last round guys, I want guys that have spike week potential, or that they're not drafted by or in every draft. So that's giving you leverage in the playoffs rounds, even if they suck all season, even if they have one great week in the playoffs, you're going to be one of the only people in the playoffs that has them, and it's just a leverage factor more so. And, especially when you're going infielder, I think the projections are probably a lot closer than people think too. Like when you're looking at guys that common names of, and compared to that you don't. Oh, so you got extra spicy with Andrew Painter in that.
Interesting. Extra. Now there was a recent report. It was not in the news and notes, so you don't have to worry about that one, Ryan. But they're saying he might spend.
He's out for the year or something.
No, that he might spend more time in the bullpen until there's an opening in the rotation for him. I think if he's good enough, he's going to be in the rotation. I don't think the Phillies are crazy like that. Plus, if you look at the rotation, someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
But that's just what they're saying. I just want to throw some shade.
I thought you were going to say he's hurt or something like you normally do after I take somebody.
I didn't want an infielder here, but
he's falling a lot.
Getting him last, talking about guys who can have spike potential. Yeah. Salvador Perez is high on my list. I got 2 catchers here. We're talking about platoon hitters. You can apply the same logic to catchers. You want guys that spike, like Cal Raleigh and Salvador Perez, or you want to
William Contreras, who plays every day. The GOAT.
Right.
Yes. But I just wanted to mention, I was going to ask that, and you kind of led into it, is I remember in recent years, it's just been kind of a thing, like don't draft catchers in Underdog. And I think that's kind of been dispelled between, even Adley, who plays a ton, William plays a ton, so they get the plate appearances anyways. Plus, there's more platooning in baseball now. You're talking the spike week concept that I think more people are buying into as well. So I've noticed this year, like you have 2 catchers on one team, like you mentioned. I've seen a ton more catchers taken where it used to only be maybe like William and Adley. Now it's the top 7, 8 guys are at least going, it feels like, compared to recent seasons.
Yeah, and throwing Yainer Diaz there as another catcher that is on my list of catchers I'm okay taking.
Yep. And then Ryan just went with Jake McCarthy with his final pick. Can you elaborate on that, please?
No, just running out of time looking for a 6th outfielder.
Okay, I was like, that one surprised me. Well, if anything, like Sheep said, a guy that doesn't get drafted a lot, Jake McCarthy.
Well, he's actually getting drafted most drafts.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I'll say I don't notice him getting drafted in mine. I must be asleep at the wheel on those.
I wish he wasn't getting drafted, but he is.
Then again, most of my drafts right now have been slow drafts, so I definitely miss if he gets picked. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, close your ears for a second, but I was listening to the position previews on Rates and Barrels, and they really put a...
You respect them, so it's all good.
I know. Who doesn't? Those guys are awesome. But they really put a big bucket of water on my Jake McCarthy exposure. They're talking about Alec Thomas getting playing time over him. So I ask you guys where you're at on Jake McCarthy.
Don't ask me. Ask the guy that just picked him.
I mean, I think I'm not that I'm counting, but I think approximately 50% of my picks tonight have immediately been dumped on. Like within about 30 seconds. By
no, I have a ton of him, so I want him to be good.
I can't. No, there is absolute. I mean, Jake McCarthy. The thing that worries me about McCarthy is Arizona has shown the willingness to demote him before, and if he doesn't play like a good real life baseball player again, there's real risk in that happening again. So yeah, another one of my stellar picks this evening.
And the draft is complete, gentlemen.
Who'd you go with at the end? Joey Ortiz?
Yep.
Well, you ended with five infielders in a row.
Yeah, 7 pitchers. Or I had what the heck was my squad here? Here you go. It was I can't. There you go. I had 7 pitchers, 7 infielders, 6 outfielders. Yeah, I have. When you look deeper into it, I have 4 Brewers, 4 Cubs, and 4 A's. Talk about stacks, gentlemen.
There you go.
That was the plan going in, or just
once
be able to do 2 stacks.
Well, I did based on what the early picks were, based on your projections. Like I don't have much Brent Rooker at all and stuff like that, so it all shifted, and I wanted to see how it built. I told you this was going to be a fun learning experience for me to see how I enjoyed drafting with the projections, and also enjoyed the stacking, which I have not done a ton of because I admit I love doing my slow drafts because I can do a bunch at once. But I feel like doing so many different slow drafts, I don't get focused on the stacking like I should, which should be easier because you have extra time to set your queue.
That's what I was going to come back with.
But it feels like when you're in the groove of the draft, I'm much more inclined to like start looking at my queue, start building. You also see the flow of everybody else's picks, which I don't pay as much attention. When you have 20 slow drafts going and you open your phone up and you go, oh, I'm up in 3 drafts. You just go boom, boom, boom. You walk away because you like that's why you're doing the slow drafts. You're busy. So that's kind of how I feel. I was going to ask Sheep before they do the draft here. Like, how do you feel on the slow draft versus fast draft deal?
For me, on slow drafts, it's usually stand up then walk away because I'm usually hitting those while I'm doing other things in the morning.
That's exactly how I am. Yep.
Yes, I just because I like drafting and I'm crazy. I will put 5 to 10 slow drafts always active. Lately, right now, I've been having eliminator slow drafts going just to try and scratch a different contest itch. But yeah, I'm absolutely the same. Like in a slow draft, I do not spend any extra time thinking about my decisions, which is why I end up just setting up a queue when I start and I start thinking about a stack as I'm taking a player. I make sure I set up my queue in the slow draft. Otherwise, I'm less likely to look, even though I have 8 hours to look.
Yep, and that's my thing. Is like I'm doing the slow draft because I'm doing stuff, so it's like in and out. Like I don't even pay attention. If anything, I look at who's on my roster, and then I go back and pick up a guy basically on I knowing what I need, essentially what risks I'm willing to take right now, and I move on. Matt says 100% easier to be in stacking flow and fast drafts, so he's with us as well. Sheep, and then I'll let Ryan, you get on the floor after this. Underdog, I said it before the show, I think on air, I can't remember. That might have been off air with Ryan. They introduced the autopilot now, so people that aren't complete people, is the best way I'll say it, can turn auto draft on when they just auto fill a bunch of drafts, because otherwise they run their clock every single time. And so these drafts, like people just saw, took us about 45 minutes. Still not a lot of time. But if you're in a draft where there's 3 people not there, that makes that draft feel like an hour. And it might be an hour. They can go on autopilot now, which basically is boom, 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 sets their queue and goes. How are you enjoying that so far? Because you've done a lot more live drafts than me, and to me, that just seems like a godsend. If people follow it, of course.
I don't think it helps that much. To be honest, I don't think people that are the problem are using it. I think the people that know what they're doing are using it, which are already going to be fast drafters to begin with. I've had some interesting fun with it, as I try to max this contest for the first time this year.
Dog ball money, baby.
That's right.
I'd be lying if I said that wasn't part of it.
Balance is looking good.
Share your screen next time.
There you
go. But I've been using my ranks and trying to do a few autos here and there just to see how they turn out. But so I like it. But I don't personally think it's that big of a deal. I think if anything, the thing that would help is going down to like a 20-second clock, but we don't, which they've experimented in the football streets, 10 and 20-second clocks.
Have they really?
How'd that
wow.
go? 10 seconds would be wild.
People like it. It's the hardcore guys that are in here every day doing thousands of football drafts between all those things. They like that shorter clock.
Ryan, you got anything else to add? Otherwise, I got another question here.
No, go for it.
All right. So I meant to ask you like mid-show, but we were flowing doing something else, and you mentioned football because that is quote unquote the king of anything fantasy, especially what Underdog flourishes on. And we're all trying to do the baseball thing and make it better. That's why we do more shows in it. You do your shows. There's a lot of guys doing it. So we all want it to be bigger, and it's growing. It has grown a lot. So there's no denying that. But one of the major things people talk about in football is the 0 running backs. And I know it's been proven successful at times, proven not. I don't know how to perfectly incorporate that to baseball per se, because it's kind of instead of having a bunch of different positions, you still have it's infield, outfield instead of wide receivers, so on and so forth. Have you found something comparable to that in baseball just for fun? Or I guess, is it pitching? Is your 0 running backs your pitchers per se?
So it is, in that it's an easy way to talk to people coming over from football to take that idea that they know and transfer it to baseball. So if you say 0 pitcher is like 0 running back, they know it. But if you dive deeper into it, like, you're not going with like handcuffs. You're not going with contingent players when you're taking 0 pitcher. So the actual like archetype of the player that you're taking in the 2 different things is different, but it's easy to, as a language, a piece of language, use it to communicate with people. So I do compare 0 pitcher to 0 running back, but also unlike running back, like if you look at running back last year, there was still, CMC was still going pick 1, round 1 last year, right? There was still running backs going early. Like in football, we had, the Saquon and Derrick Henry guys just smashed their ADP. So I'm more thinking about it in terms of those guys.
Okay.
So early running back, old running back didn't work for however long. It worked this year. Will it work next year? I don't know. But again, you're going back to zigging when other people are zagging. As pitchers are undervalued in the first few rounds, if you're going to zig there, maybe you're going to catch a season like you caught with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley this year.
True. All right. I don't have much left. That was a blast. That was quick. Still took a normal show time to knock out, but you have anything else, Ryan, or are you ready to wrap this one up?
I think after drafting that team, I got to go get more beer.
I gotta go
back. No, this was fun. Sheep, thanks for joining us, man. It is fun to see the baseball season post, as cliche as it is nowadays. I think we ring it in right. We don't just do a tweet. We just do a live draft.
Yeah, right after the game.
Started off. Exactly. I like
before we leave those, Sheep, plug everything again, because again, we say it a lot on the show. It's not just because we're friends and all, but the stuff is great, especially to help grow the underdog people. Like, you got to check out what Sheep's doing.
Yeah, so the two YouTube channels, Stacking Dingers and The Sheep Seats. Stacking Dingers, a pre-recorded podcast type of format. You can also get that one on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And then the Sheep Seats is just usually every Friday night we're drafting a baseball team. We have the playoff contest, we have the in-season contest. So most of the year we have a baseball team to draft, and we're there on Friday nights drafting it.
Are you going to do the listener league auction on Sheep Seats?
Yes. So
it'll be a crossover.
I'm going to do my first quote unquote auction. I did do one auction league with a work league that was after that year they never ran it after I won, so I don't really qualify that as an auction.
They called them the shark in that one, not the sheep.
Damn, shut it down. Year one. Okay.
So yeah, they didn't know what they're getting into when they were talking to my coworker. They're like, "Hey, do you want to join this fantasy baseball league?" Because he's had done the football league with these guys too, and I was like, "Oh, I'll join." That was a few years even before I got hardcore into this, but yeah. So it will be. I'm calling it my first auction draft ever. I'm gonna live stream the Bubba and Bloom auction listener league. I forget what day. I think the 28th of February.
28th, yeah, that Friday the 28th. It's our last of 10 leagues. So yeah.
Yep. So you can see me struggle through that, and I talk about being comfortable on the clock, but there is no clock. You're always on the clock for an auction.
Always on the clock. Yep.
We'll see me struggle through that.
Totally different animal. I look forward to seeing you struggle during that one. I'll be tuning in. It'll be fun. I'm doing the Friday night before you, so the 21st. So I'm sure I'll stream mine as well.
I'll be doing the Wednesday between the two of you. So yeah, there's gonna be at least 4 or 5 of the leagues will be streamed, which will be fun. So you'll be the last of them. So you can kind of see how to heckle the rest of us, and then you can jump in and do it yourself, which will be
there you go.
Pretty sweet as well. But my friend, thanks for joining us as always. It's a blast. Make sure you can follow Sheep on the Twitter there at D4RKSH33P_ and follow his YouTube channels. Make sure you follow Ryan on Twitter at RyanBHQ, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod, and on Patreon at patreon.com/Bubba Bloom. I'm at BD Intric. Until next time, this is Bubba and the Bloom, episode 212. It's baseball season, everybody. Catch y'all next time.